Well, Hayley Matthews, always good to see you and to have a chat with you. Welcome once again to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. This time it's the straight drive edition where we are focusing mainly on the World Cup. We are all in T20 mode, days away from the start of the real action, although the West Indies and other teams have been playing warm-up games and series and so on against other countries. It's a busy time and an exciting time. So welcome to you, Hayley. Welcome to Deighton Smith and Basil Butcher Jr. Um, don't let them know that I told you, Haley, but two of your biggest fans. So that's the reality. Well, you could actually say three if you count me, but I was really focusing on these guys, on these youngsters. Gentlemen, I am sure you will join me in wishing in congratulating Haley on an excellent run. She has been headlining pretty much all the games that she's been playing in over the past several months. Not that that is a new thing in itself, but the recent form has really been phenomenal. I think you'll agree, Haley.
Yeah, I've probably been having the best time in my career over the last 12 months or so. And yeah, it's been pretty good to get some runs under the belt. And I think one thing for me that probably stands out, and one thing that I've wanted to have for a really long time is that consistency. So I think to be able to go out there and definitely just be more consistent and spend a lot more time at the crease, but a lot more overs. And I think the runs and the results kind of showing from it.
Hmm. So, Dayton,
Mhm.
as I said, I'm sure you want to join me in congratulating Haley on her excellent
Oh,
performance.
very
So,
definitely. As you know, I've been following Haley since she was probably what, 7 or 8 years old, harassing people around Pickwick Cricket Club. And she's great testimony to the fact that when you dedicate yourself to anything, when you put yourself into doing it day after day, as she's done from a girl with passion, you get good results. So Haley, I really congratulate you. I am a huge fan of yours. I'm sure your father has gotten tired of hearing me passing all my congratulations to him. And I'm really, really happy to see you doing as well as you are. But I have a couple of questions. First about you and then about our cricket. Over the years, and especially in the last 25 years, we've produced some very, very good cricketers, but we've not had very good results because a lot of the time they've found themselves without the support cast that they need. I mean, going back as far as George Headley, who was probably one of the greatest batsmen in the world, he was probably the only batsman in that team. That's probably unfair, but what I'm getting at is that for a long time you've been shouldering the West Indies batting. And obviously, that's a large burden to bear, especially at a young age. And strangely enough, now that you have more responsibility as captain in recent times, you've been batting better and better and much more consistently. Clearly, you've taken the responsibility seriously. But is there anything else that you're doing that you think has contributed to this consistency?
I think the main thing for me probably is just valuing my wicket a lot at the crease. I felt
Mhm.
like probably before the captaincy, um, I wasn't paying as much attention to being responsible at the crease, and obviously had players like Stefani and DeAndre around me often as well. So I was probably a lot more aggressive and taking a lot of chances, which I found I haven't necessarily needed to
Mhm.
nowadays. And as though I can just bat my hand. And I think the girls are kind of helping me now, having their own small roles to be able to kind of bat around what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, I think that's been the main thing that's really helped me throughout this process of coming into the captaincy and being more consistent, like you said.
Okay. You've been playing a lot of cricket all around the world, and clearly you've picked up a lot of experience from those things. Has that contributed to this new Haley we're seeing?
Yeah, for sure. I think all the cricket I would have had the opportunity to play over the years. Playing franchise cricket from 2016 has definitely helped me to learn a lot about my game. I think the reason probably for some of our girls maybe being a bit more behind is because of the fact that they don't get to play a whole heap of cricket in the past. At least a lot more is being played now. But for myself, I think I always had that opportunity to get out there, be playing constant cricket, and learn a lot as well. I think just scoring a one score in long patches. So I think the fact that I've been able to kind of play a lot more games, learn how to build an innings, especially in T20 cricket with that format changing so rapidly, I've been able to put together, I guess, a plan and just work on executing that on the day now.
Good evening, Hayley. I want to say well done. Since I would say, well, I've been coaching women's cricket now for 2008, so I have paid very close attention to women's cricket since then. So I've pretty much seen probably all the games you have played since it's been on TV. Me and my friend, if you remember the coach, came there in 2011. We were always on the phone together. We watching the games and we commenting and so on and so forth. Of course, there are times we are critical of you, like Lord, throw blasted wicket, batting good. But the thing I would say, to echo what Deighton is saying, since you've become captain, we don't see that like we used to see it in the past, and I guess maybe that responsibility, as you said, plays a role. As I would say, you're probably the third coming of Atlas in terms of West Indies cricket. We had the first one in George Headley, and Brian Lara was the next one. I know you, right? One question to just start you off is the upcoming series is going to be an interesting one from this perspective, in that Sri Lanka got a player that could match you. Pakistan didn't have a player that could match you. So it's going to be very incumbent of your well, I want to use the term supporting cast, because your teammates, for them to step up. Because we know Miss Apatu could match you, and y'all could pretty much
each other.
Yes, cancel out each other, and it's the rest of the players of the team. So how is that something you think is a fair assessment of the upcoming series?
I think so, yeah. But I think with knowing that as well, I still feel as though we could be quite confident. I think when you look at the last series we played against Pakistan, we gave Shemaine Campbell some responsibility at 3, and that was the most consistency we've seen from her probably in her entire career. Chipping in every single game. Obviously, having Stephanie Taylor there in at number 4 helps our batting to stretch out a bit more as well too. And she's somebody that no matter what, you always feel like when the situation needs her, she's going to be able to step up. We saw players like Aliyah Aline be able to come in at the end, Shadeen Nation back in the team. And I feel as though once these girls have roles that they know, they understand. And sometimes in a cricket match, you don't need to score 100 to contribute to the team. I think especially in T20 cricket nowadays, you can play very stand in their roles, and I think what they want to go out there and do at the crease, I see all the skill and the potential to get those roles played until they could then advance into even better players and be scoring the big 50s and the 100s within the game as well.
Hayley, just
go ahead,
said something that I won't put you on the spot. But when you said something about the players having clear roles, understanding their roles, are you intimating that was not something in the past?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think.
Okay, I just checking.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I think
Hayley,
just different roles, stuff like that. No.
Okay.
When I watched that Pakistan series, and I'm glad we sort of widened the net now a little bit. Roles, not necessarily having to make big scores. You had some very good partnerships with Shemaine Campbell, in which a lot of the time what she was clearly doing is getting off strike and getting you back on strike, which is a clear plan. I thought the West Indies looked a little more organized in what they were trying to do as a batting team rather than as individuals. Chanel Henry didn't get a lot of opportunity in the series, and you mentioned Aliyah Aline, who clearly has some batting potential, but has not had a lot of opportunity. how do you see these things playing out in the future in terms of are we working on getting players like them to step up in the same way that you did with Shemaine Campbell to say, here's your responsibility at number 3, here's your role at number 5, here's your role at number 6, because I think they clearly have the ability. Is about just like yourself now translating it into consistency.
Yep. I think that's precisely what we're trying to do. No matter where you are batting in the team, number 5, number 6, number 7, they're all gonna have crucial roles to play, and we just want to send out the message and have them understand exactly what they're supposed to do, and work to just get better at that and get better at that, and then when they get good enough, get to another level of your game. And a lot of these girls might be 27, 28, 29, but I think when you look at cricket on a whole, what age you're playing to, and then the amount of games they've played, it probably doesn't speak for their age as well. So I think they still have so many levels and so many heights that they can reach. I guess with the right planning around them.
Yeah, excellent. Well, first of all, let me comment on something you said there about age. West Indies players always take long to develop because they do not play as many professional games as other people. If you take the English County Championship, for instance, they play from May to, or April or May to September. In the Caribbean, in the men's game, you play what? Well, it depends on the season because the rules keep changing, but at maximum 10 games. And the ladies competition is even less. So I don't think we should penalize people for that. We should accept that they take longer to develop. But something else I noticed during the series, I don't know if it just happened accidentally or if this was a plan, but the fielding of the team seemed to go up a level. Is that something that you focused on specifically? Because it made a difference in those games. Some of them were a bit close and your fielding was far better than the Pakistanis. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I think one thing we want to go out there and have is intensity every single time. And even when it comes down to the fielding, we still try to give girls roles and have them work on that as we go ahead.
Excellent.
We have specific people that are going to be boundary fielders and going to be working extra hard on that during the training sessions. Certain people that we know are going to be kept in the circle more often than not. So just focus really hard on that. Obviously, you got the people that you're preparing to be behind in slip, but everybody has their specified roles to know, well, this is where I'm going to be majority of the time. This is my area to cover, and how can I best do that? And then obviously you have your general training where everybody going to get a run about the field. But I think we're just trying to put a specific planning in place so that the girls' training is as similar to being out there on the field and knowing exactly what they have to do and executing that one role that they do have.
Excellent.
If I may jump in and revisit the Shemaine Campbell situation, Hayley. You said this is probably her most consistent in her career.
It certainly was.
You suggested that the responsibility played a part. But what I'm going to ask, were there other factors as far as you're aware? I mean, in other words, has she been working on certain weaknesses? What else you think, if anything else, has contributed to her consistency?
I think specifically in that series, one of the things that we found, not only her, but as a team, was they were pretty much getting us so when we went across the line. A lot of LBWs from cross-batted shots. And I think from the first game when I was able to score that 140, I saw that we were able to kind of relay that message throughout the entire team. And I found one thing she did for that entire series was focused on playing every ball up and down the ground until it was able to go down leg and then go really hard at that. And obviously in 50 over cricket, that's probably ideal. They have the long on, the long off, the sweepers as well. So it's easy to pick up runs up and down the ground and just be able to control the game. And when they do slip up, obviously in the T20s, sometimes you have to move around and create shots for yourself. But I still found that while we did play the T20, she was able to do that really well. And we were able to bat together for a long time too. So it wasn't always about her hitting boundaries necessarily. And we were able to just build a really good partnership instead.
Mm-hmm. Good. Excellent. Go ahead, Bas.
No, I was gonna one of the questions I want to ask about some of the players that you see on the outside. If you want to comment, if that's something you would want to answer about some of the. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the regional tournament this past year, because there was some questions in some quarters that a young leg spin out to Guyana, why she was not in the mix. Yeah. You know the one I talk about, Latchman. Yes, yes, because the thing that impressed me most about her is to see a youngster bowling leg spin and pitching it in the good areas way more times than not, which is an achievement in itself. And you know, I see her as a player that we can be looking at, because Fletcher is not a youngster anymore, and that is and leg spinners are hard to find. So, what do you have any thoughts on her?
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten to see too much of her, but I have heard good reports of her. But you asked in general, I guess, about the regional tournament and seeing players come out of there. And yeah, I do think we were able to see a lot of youngsters with potential, one or two with a dabble within the team before and had a one game here or there in the series. But I think one thing I really like to focus on in our regional tournaments, and I think one thing that really comes to light, is the fact that the standard of our regional tournament probably isn't as high as it should be. And I think because of that, sometimes we see such a massive jump between the level of our regionals versus getting into international cricket. So sometimes here or there, we might see someone have a performance at the regional tournament, but then maybe get up to the international level and it's a completely different ball game. So I think at the same time, we still have to be really careful with the young players. At the end of the day, you don't want to have them throwing in the deep and throw them in the deep end constantly, and probably break their confidence or something like that as well. So I think it's all a work in process. A work in progress. We have the regional tournament, and then we have stepping stones from there as well. Obviously, the CPL is about now. That gives us another level of competition. Has the international girls coming in as well. So really able to raise the level of competition there. And then I think throughout our camps, having 30 of the best women cricketers around and probably playing some games against each other is something that would add another level of competition for us too.
Yeah, excellent.
And, one quick thing before if I forget, one of the issues seem to be when the women return home, even if they go to camp and they're given charge things to do when they go back home. Just from my experience of knowing players in Guyana, it's been a very poor process. And as a result, we're not seeing the improvements that we would hope to see. Is that something, you've now been captain and you're talking with the coach, that's something that you guys going to be a little more vigilant about?
Yeah, and I think it's something that comes about with just changing the team culture on a whole too. Having girls want to go back home and want to do their work and want to do better, because at the end of the day, we all kind of got to be aiming for the same thing and going at the same goal. And that's not going to come through us, I guess, heading back home and not doing our work. So I think we're just trying to create that culture within the team now to make sure that anyone that wants to be within the system knows that this is what you have to do. And if it is that you're taking things for granted, then is that you, I guess, not being within the team culture, and we're really, really strict on that. But at the same time, I do think there was probably a period where the girls didn't have as much support when they went back home as well. So I think it was definitely a two-sided thing. But I think there has been some really good conversations being had, Cricket West Indies and the girls, and trying to add more support for them as well when we are at home and when we're getting home. So I think things are starting to move in the right direction with that. And hopefully the results will show. And I think it has shown in the last series when you speak about the way we were in the field. I think everyone looked fit, everyone looked like they can move around. And that was because of the work we are starting to do a lot better now.
Excellent. Hayley, you were talking earlier about being able to play more cricket, to work more at your game more often. And if we take you as an example, I am aware of the fact that every opportunity you got every day, you played some form of cricket, bowl at your brother, your father, bat, etc. And in Barbados, certainly, and I believe most of the Caribbean, there's very little opportunity for that to happen. Now, I'm aware that your franchise launched a program here in Barbados, right? So two things. Could you tell us how that's going? Because I think it's absolutely necessary for these youngsters to be able to play as much as possible, to work at their game as much as possible. How is that going? And is there any possibility of more of that happening around the region? I don't know if you're aware of any programs, right?
Yeah, well, that's going really great so far. I think it's amazing to see that young girls are going to have the opportunity to head out there and just get free training. And there was obviously a bit of it when I was younger, but to have an established club,
Yeah.
who invites all young girls to come down and just train for free. And I think falling in love with the game is the most important thing when you look at something like that. Just having young girls come out, enjoy playing the sport of cricket, and then you never know where to take you from there. I always say, as a young girl, when I fell in love with the game, I had no idea that this is what it would have led to. I just played it because I loved it and I wanted to play cricket. So I just think it's great that the girls have that opportunity now. And hopefully we'll be able to see more pathways being created for girls. I think the faster we do that and the faster we're able to get into these schools and really show young girls and parents, I think, as well, that there's a pathway and you can make a proper career in cricket and just sport on a whole in the Caribbean. Is going to open up so many more doors for young girls.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had a bit of that, but I am aware that when you trained at that same ground, you actually trained with a boys team.
Yeah, pass it good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so and this is significantly different in that regard. This is definitely a girls' program. So that's why I'm so happy to see it, and I really hope that you can use your influence to encourage other people to do this in Trinidad, in Guyana, in Grenada, wherever. Because I think it's the biggest thing we're missing in our cricket, the opportunity to develop at that young age.
Yeah.
Your your involvement at Passage Road. I know you were there for the launch, etc. Of course, you're always all around the world. When you're here, do you go and visit those girls and let them see a superstar to sort of encourage? Because what I'm really picking up on is your comment about developing a love for the game, which is right. You need that in order to go. But what I'm getting at is, what do we do to try and generate that passion in people? I mean, obviously, one of the things that does that is seeing the great Hayley Matthews come out there and visit.
Yeah, so I actually was able to go down. They had a session at Friendship on Tuesday. It was the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was able to go down there, meet the girls, play a bit of cricket with them, do a bit of
Wonderful.
umpiring as well.
Excellent.
So yeah, it was good to see so many young girls out there. And I think it was a bit surprising. All of them were so young. We had some 6, 7, 8, and
Yep.
they were screaming my name, Hayley Matthews. And I think the fact that I could probably touch a younger generation. I always try to get out there and visit the girls and everything as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, excellent.
If I may jump in here though, Haley, while we're on that subject, we talked about your being a World Cup ambassador. Um, what does that involve for you specifically? And is there any way that you can use that as a stage, let's say, to influence um women's cricket? Because I mean, yes, it's the men's World Cup, but at the same time, you are a top female player, one of the best in the world. And given too that the Women's World Cup is coming up later this year, is there what potential is there for using that platform, to promote the game, especially among women?
Yeah, I think for me it's just about representation. We have a huge men's World Cup, a global event, and obviously as an ambassador, a female one, I get to be a part of representation for women on such a global stage. So I think just the opportunity, probably getting to do some pre-tournament stuff online and then getting that opportunity to go to the first match and I guess hopefully be a part of things. I don't know exactly what I have to do as yet, but just getting to go down to Kensington Oval, see a packed crowd, and hopefully be able to interact with some young girls as well. I think for me is probably the biggest thing.
Fantastic.
The one of the things you guys talking about the women's programs in the various territories, but in the short term, because of the standard of our women's cricket, I feel it's incumbent in the various territories they do something to get these women to play against boys or because as Hayley pointed out, and which I agree, the jump from the regional game to the international game is a huge ask. So if in the short term to get the standard of these players up, I think they need to be playing in competitions against maybe boys, on the 17s or whatever it is that they can, upskill their skills, because they're not going to be doing it playing against players like themselves.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think certainly when I was a young girl, I grew up playing boys cricket right through from under 9 straight until under 19 crickets. And even now when I'm home and there's the elite 50 over competition going, sorry, 3 day, I try to get out and playing those competitions. So I think we definitely need to see a lot of that. I certainly feel as though it helped to jumpstart my game at a young age facing such tough competition. But I think we are seeing it here in Barbados. Our ladies team is enrolled in the men's second division competition where they play on a weekend. And I think our under 19 girls went up against our under 13 boys the other day. So it's good to see here in Barbados, at least they're really starting to let the girls play against some of the boys and the older men, that they could just gain that bit more experience playing against some slightly harder competition.
Yeah, because I remember a young lady who came. We brought her up to the States to play with my women's team, and she said in Georgetown at the time there was a women's team that was playing in the under 15 boys competition, the 50 over. But since, unfortunately, that's like close to 10 years or more ago, they don't have anything of the sort. I help with some players in Guyana. And like right now, one of the players I trying to help out, we trying to work on help her work on some things. She can't get nowhere to go and practice.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not like that forever. I feel like, you got kind of try to integrate both with the girls and the boys now, just simply because of where the female program is at in the Caribbean. But I feel as though if they keep investing into it, and hopefully within a few years' time, we'll see the women's program come about enough to the fact where the gap isn't so big between international cricket. You can have girls filtering through a system that will get them ready for international cricket before hitting it.
Yes.
Hayley, one of the things that and I'm switching gears a little bit here now. I'm sort of focusing a little bit on Sri Lanka now that you're going on there. By the way, when are you going?
I think the 4th of June.
4th of June, okay, right. In Pakistan, it was basically a battle of spin bowling. West Indies bowling has been carried by their spinners. And when you go to Sri Lanka, I imagine the conditions there are not going to be very different from most of those Asian countries. So again, it can be a battle of spin. But by the end of the year, you're going to be coming up against teams that have some pretty decent seam bowling attacks, like England and Australia. And I noticed, by the way, you're beginning to integrate a few young seamers in your team, and I commend not you, but the management team, or you and the team for doing that, because I see we've got Glasgow and Kate Wilmot now sort of testing their feet in the waters. Talk to me a little bit about that challenge now, especially after 2 series where you're going to be pretty much up against a lot of spin bowling, and the transition, especially for the less experienced players, coming up late in the year now against these better seam attacks.
Yeah, I think it's just honestly about preparation. We make sure that before each series, we obviously do our analysis, and we should, I should say, at least know what's coming up before every single series. And I feel as though the biggest thing for me when I'm batting is my preparation and working out what a bowler is trying to do, so that I'm best prepared, what shots are probably best against them, so that I could kind of plan out my innings and go with it. And I feel as though once we kind of have those plans in place and we work on them in the nets, it'll simply come down to the execution within the game. So I feel like for me, once we could prepare really well, obviously heading down to India later, who are going to have quite a bit of spin as well. But from the time the year turns over and we start playing our other series, you're right, we're going to have really good pace attacks against us. But I think we just got to do all our preparations the right way to get ready for it.
Do you think that preparation could be helped in any way, even in some practice games, involving some young male fast bowlers? I mean, even under 19 bowlers or some under 17 bowlers.
Yeah, well, in fact, when we play in the Caribbean, 80% of the time when we have our net bowlers is young boys.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, so we have a lot of guys. But when we went to Pakistan just now, every single netballer was a guy. All spinners, leg spinners, left arm spinners, and all young boys who also want to compete in the nets as well. So don't think
That's
that they
great.
don't think I get lost short. I get lost short balls for some pretty drives. So
Of
Yeah.
course,
This is good
the
news.
last thing,
I never knew
the
that.
last
That's
thing the
good to
boys
know.
want is because
yeah,
so they did not give my team quarters at all.
well, it's a good thing I see short balling fast.
Yeah. You grew up on it, Haley. I know. Yeah. I am I'm especially proud to say that the boys team that Haley represented was my former school.
All
Yeah,
right.
so
I,
I've been watching her playing all her life.
I got a friend who has a podcast, and he has been positing that Haley could play in our first class tournament and more than 100 there. I said to him, be very careful. First class, you got people bowling at 90 miles in first class.
Yeah.
I grew up playing under 19 cricket facing Joffrey and Jerome Jones and my brother in the backyard pulling that 80 at me. So
All right.
I'm quite familiar
Yeah.
with pitch. Not saying that I want to run on face 90 though.
Oh.
Not saying that I want to run on face 90.
But if you had to, you wouldn't shy away from it.
I will buckle up, but not saying that I want to.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough, fair enough.
Good
Yeah,
news.
because as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. Talking about your brother though, he seems to be a very passionate cricket lover as well. I follow him in the domestic competition. How is he going? And as far as you're aware, does he have any specific goals other than playing at the domestic level?
Yeah, he's pretty good. Obviously grew up together, just playing cricket outside in our yard every single day. So we have a pretty close relationship when it comes to that. But no, I think right now he's just playing in the competition in Barbados. He would have obviously been within the Barbados setup when he was at under 19, but I think he had a lot of injuries and stuff through that period. So probably just focus a lot more on school and work and play cricket as I guess entertainment. But I think he's still out there enjoying it at the moment, still having a good time. And I think he's actually playing a bit of football now too. So
I'm very proud
yeah,
of his sister, no doubt.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I know you've got a pretty busy schedule, so we're not going to hold you up much longer. But I want to ask something that I know is on the minds of many cricket fans, and I'm not sure the extent to which you appreciate or the women generally appreciate the extent of the support and or interest, I should say, in women's cricket. Certainly in Barbados, I know for sure, and others throughout the region. It may not always manifest itself by crowds at Kensington when they're games. And trust me, there are reasons for that have very little to do with the fact that they're women playing, because you will know that with the men, it's pretty much the same thing. But that's a story for a different day. But you were saying earlier about the responsibility on you at various times, and before the captaincy, and now you're a captain. And you've had a situation where Stephanie Taylor has not in recent times not necessarily been at her peak fitness or her peak health, and that has put even more pressure or more responsibility, I should say, on you. But we've also had to suffer the loss of DeAndre Dalton. I know there are fans out there who are hopeful and optimistic that maybe there may be another chapter to that story. As far as you're aware, what's the latest regarding DeAndre?
Well, I haven't spoken to her about anything like that in recent times. Yeah, as she's been retired obviously now for the last year or so. And yeah, I think it's really unfortunate that we haven't been able to see her in some of the franchise competitions. I think she would have still really been enjoying her time there, but yeah, I haven't had anything new with that situation. And yeah, every time I kind of say, just wish her all the best in retirement and what she's doing. And yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, before Haley runs off, any further interactions?
Well, I would just like to say once again, Haley, I'm extremely proud of what you've done with your career so far, and I wish you all the best going forward. I to see your development and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I like to wish Hayley all the best. I remember the first time I saw her, we were playing against a Barbados second 11 at the Wanderers Club. And one of our opening batters hit her off drive. And she had to move to her right. We thought the ball would go for four. And see this little girl step across and stop the ball. And me and the coach turn and look at each other. Man, boy or girl, that's a cricketer.
Excellent.
Well, guys, we know of and we continue to be in awe of the ability and the performances on the field. That's a given. But what is also admirable is the manner off the field or off the competitive field. And that's testament, let's say we see that in the same program that you talked about, Deighton. I was actually at the launch some months ago.
She's a phenomenal ambassador.
Yeah, phenomenal ambassador in every sense of the word. And in terms of media reactions, always willing to discuss and express views and share information and knowledge. That's important, not only from the perspective of media personnel like us who enjoy engaging with you and discussing cricket with you, but even more importantly, from the point of view of the people who are watching. Because we are at a stage where we all would love to see women's cricket take off, and we would like to see the improvement in the men's game as well. And I think it is through interactions like this where a cricket star, a person who is well respected throughout the world, one of the best in the world, and to be able to express yourself and interact with the general public, I think that's important for the sport because sport, generally speaking, is about personalities. And if people cannot relate to those personalities, you're going to have a problem. So continue in that spirit, Hayley, and wishing you all the best on and off the field.
I got one quick thing to say. I think Hayley, I understand also Stephanie Taylor. The way they both came up in cricket, they played a lot of boys cricket coming up. I think it's incumbent of the administrators, coaches, etc., to speak to them, to get intimate knowledge of their development, because we know what the situation is. So they can glean from that and use those examples, because these are two world beaters.
All right.
So it's important to look at what they did to get to the level they are. And maybe we could use some of those principles to jumpstart some of our other players, to put them in the similar environments for the development. And I would say this also, Hayley, because as I tell you, I watch all the women's cricket with streaming. There were many times when I click on their YouTube, you had over 1,000 people watching a match on the YouTube. So it's obvious there is interest amongst people of the women's game.
Well said, Basil Butcher Jr. Thanks to you. Thanks to you, Deighton. And most of all, thanks to you, Hayley, for sharing these moments with us.
No worries. And thanks for having me on the show again.
Have a good night.
All right, have a good night.
See you.